let's introduce ourselves first.
Yeah,
Go
sure.
ahead.
Hi, I'm Lauri Gran. I'm a creative here at TBWA Helsinki.
And I'm Jyrki Poutanen. I'm the Chief Creative Officer of TBWA Helsinki. And today we were asked to talk a little about press freedom. So, so when the world's most powerful men decided to hold the first official summit in Helsinki in 2018, an opportunity presented itself.
So basically, Finland being a small country next to Russia, it sort of has a strange historical significance because we've held these similar summits before when the leaders of Russia and the US have met in Helsinki. I think this is probably the third or fourth time when this happened back in 2018. And our client, Helsingin Sanomat, is the largest newspaper in all the Nordics. So they wanted to sort of do a campaign while the presidents were visiting Helsinki, and they wanted to talk about press freedom because Finland is one of the top ranking countries in press freedom. And we wanted to remind the world, while all the reporters of the world were here, about the importance of press freedom. So when Trump and Putin were here, they both have somewhat of a storied and difficult relationship with the press of the world, with basically Putin doing what he's done over the years and Trump really coining the term fake news and really attacking reporters directly and calling them out and becoming really hostile towards them. So what we wanted to do was talk about press freedom, talk directly to the presidents themselves, and also be relevant, be topical, and tie it to the actual product itself, the brand, in other words, the newspaper and the news. And what we actually did was we took over every single outdoor shell and outdoor space on the way from the airport to the actual summit. And this was a massive hassle because there are at least 5 different routes, of which 3 are actually viable, that you can take from the airport to the city center. And when we got the idea, we had no idea where the actual summit's going to be held. There was a lot of speculation in different medias about where it could be, and there were 5 to 6 different options. And basically what we had to do was take a guess on where the actual sort of summit would be held. And that was based on, well, our knowledge of the city and what we believed the 2 presidents' profile would be.
So yeah, and there were of course several challenges along the way, getting this alive and going. The time frame, for example, was 2.5 weeks. So that was the time we had from the sort of announcement to execute this idea. Of course, like Lauri explained, the location of the summit was unknown. The routes the presidents were going to take were unknown. There were 2 in Finland. There's 2 outdoor media brokers, Clear Channel and JCDK, which also are rivals. So we had to sort of have those 2 companies work together on a sort of a common good. In this case, the police also had been confiscating the outdoor ad-shell keys before the summit because there are of course security risks. And of course we were presenting a message or messages that neither one of the leaders wanted to see, which was sort of a difficult starting point and a sort of a scary one also. The foreign minister stands on sort of trolling the visitors of state. You know how that goes. It's not. They don't.
It doesn't really do good for the image of the country.
Exactly.
If the nation's largest news outlet decides to sort of challenge foreign dignitaries.
Yeah.
It's not really looked upon very well
And also there were key poster locations bailing out on the last minute. So like 1 or 2 days before, for example, the music hall wall, which was our crown jewel for this case, they backed out and said we're not going to do this for the visitor of states, and also the airport outdoors that we had reserved for the welcoming message. They also bailed out. But at the end of the week, maybe 1 day or 2 days prior to the president's arriving, we got everybody on board, and we got our campaign going.
Yeah.
And the last but not least, one of the challenges was that everybody was on a holiday when we had to execute this, because Finland basically shuts down during the month of July. So we, for example, us and the newspapers people, that we sort of had to come back from our vacation to execute this thing. So yeah, then a little bit about pulling the whole thing off.
Yeah, so basically we knew what we wanted to say. We wanted to talk about press freedom. We knew how we wanted to do it. We wanted to take over every single sort of possible outdoor stand that there was. In all, I think there was about 350 of them. And we wanted to sort of make sure that the message is understood but still varied, because it's about a half-hour drive, to make sure that we don't repeat ourselves too often. So the press freedom and what newspaper could say, what we actually wanted to say, was things that the newspaper had already said. In other words, what we actually did was we used old headlines from the newspaper itself along with a campaign message. And the campaign message was used on the major sort of screens that we had, such as the music hall that Jürgen just talked about. And it read, "Mr. President, welcome to the land of free press." And the actual headlines themselves, it was quite a lot of work to go through all the headlines, because we had the whole back catalogue of Helsinki Sanomat. And when you put in Trump or Putin and press freedom, I think we got around 500 to 600 hits. So we had to really manually go through every single newspaper headline and dwindle it down to 20 different headlines that we went over with the editor-in-chief of the newspaper, Kaius Niemi. And after that, we had to translate them to both English, or the ones that regarded Trump, and then into Russian, the ones that regarded Putin. So that was also a bit of a hassle in the 2.5 week time frame that we had.
So we ended up with 20 different headlines, and those we distributed to 300 outdoor billboards. On top of that, we had the welcoming message in both languages on the wall of the music hall and at the airport. And then we ended up with 3 optional routes to bombard these messages with, from the airport to the city center. And that the 3 routes out of all the possibilities were basically sort of selected through similar events data that we had known that people or the visitors of state had been taking previously. So yeah, our knowledge of the city was of course good here. Then a little bit about the PR and the strategy. I think the strategy was of course to start a discussion around the press freedom, like we talked about in the beginning. The PR was an important part of the campaign. A traditional PR kit was set up online for all the news media outlets to download, and of course this included the PR kit also included Kaius Niemi, the editor-in-chief, personally contacting his Nordic counterparts to help to boost the story.
And then, of course, having the main massive outdoor screen right outside of the press center really helped as well, because most journalists walk from their hotels to the press center, because Helsinki is quite small, you can walk anywhere, and they all walked past it and saw it. So on the actual day of the summit and the very morning before the presidents arrived, we started getting sort of slight hints that this might take off in some way, as sort of the major news broadcasters and their sort of anchors started tweeting about it and sort of figuring out that something's going on. And as the posters went up one day before, that's when the press arrives, because of course the press has to be there before the presidents do, so they actually got a sort of sneak peek of it. And once the actual day came around, and the news outlets started putting out their morning broadcasts, it was a major topic on at least most American and other sort of international news broadcasts.
Yep. And then a little bit about results.
This being Effie and all.
Yeah. So the reach for the campaign was it was covered in 2,607 articles in 56 countries, with a total reach of 1,249,684,708, which was 39 times better than the goal that had been set for this campaign. So plus 3,900% better. There was also a 33 percentage lift on the paper's brand image when they studied it later on. In terms of sales, the B2B sales surpassed the target set by 10%, and the paper reached 19% year-on growth. It was actually the first time in 25 years that Helsingin Sanomat digital subscribers went up. So that was a sort of a groundbreaking moment for that. And news subscriptions kept on following, so it wasn't just a one day or 1 week or 1 month peak, but an ongoing trend.
And then probably one other result that's followed from this, because this took place 2 years ago, and it's really been between us and the client. We've really developed our relationship, and we now, both they and we are more bold to go into new territories. One thing we did was a thing called the Climate Pen, where we sent a sort of reminder during the G20 summit to the different leaders, and we designed a special pen for it that had ink made out of
CO2.
CO2.
So a lot of brand activations followed this stunt, or what should we call it? And I think we're still living that hype with Helsingin Sanomat. They're still more keen on doing activations that are based on their values and that will, engage people in conversation rather than just filling up media spaces with advertising. So I think the key takeout from all this is that
well, you've got to be brave, and if you've got beliefs, if you've got key sort of themes and messages in your brand, stand by them and be brave, and don't be afraid to tell them to the world and challenge really, really powerful people as well.
Yeah, be brave and stand by your beliefs no matter what side of the table you're on. So that is us. Thank you from Helsinki. Hope you have a great gala, online gala, and a great FE ceremony.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.